Tegan, and welcome back to Tegan's Top 4. This is my cat, Matza. And this is my camera. And welcome back to Tegan's Top 4. The first thing is Discover on Zoom. Discover is about learning about South Hills, the church, and why you're such a big part of it. It is today at 1 o'clock, and you can RSVP on the Church Center app. The second thing is Financial Peace University. Financial Peace University is about how to save your money, get out of debt, and how to use your money wisely. It premieres at 6:30 p.m. on May 14th on Zoom. You can sign up for the group on the Church Center app. How about that? The third thing is Afternoon Tea with Gretchen. It is on Thursdays at 3 p.m. on Zoom, and it is a way for ladies to just talk to each other and have fun, and you can drink tea or coffee. Again, remember to RSVP on the Church Center app for this one. Church Center app. The last one is Beyond Our Walls. This week we are partnering with our South Hills San Diego campus to feed 500 families. To do this, you can give through the Church Center app, give $19, and it will feed one family for the whole week. I'm so excited about this, and I hope I can do it. That's all for this week. Enjoy the service.
Welcome to Church Online with South Hills Corona. My name's Gretchen and I'm your host today. We hope that after watching you feel uplifted and connected, and we want to encourage you to participate and not just watch. Maybe even take some notes and share them with us on social media. Be sure to tag South Hills Corona when you do. And we want to invite you to participate in the live discussion happening on both Facebook and YouTube as you watch. So wherever you're watching from today, get cozy and comfy and enjoy the service.
Call these bones to live, call these lungs to sing once again. I will praise you, Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear, and Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble, Jesus, Jesus. And Jesus, Jesus.
People tell me, pray, don't panic. And I want to, but I don't feel like I know how. Or maybe I'm just not good at it. Calm isn't easy for me to come by. Is that just me? I want to believe that prayer works, that it changes things, that it can make the world better, that it can make me better. But how?
Welcome to Church Online today. My name is Adam, and I'm one of the pastors at South Hills Church in Corona, California. And so glad that you tuned in today. I don't know where you find yourself. I don't know how you're dressed. Maybe you're not dressed, okay? Maybe you were laying in bed. Maybe you were in your living room, but you're still not dressed because you're like, this is my house. I can go to church in my underwear if I want to. And that is the beauty of Church Online. I'm here in my kitchen today, and I've got my Bible and my notes, and I've got my mystery beverage. I'm just going to tell you what it is today. Normally it's water, but today it's Diet Coke. And the reason it's Diet Coke is because that's where I'm at in quarantine, where I'm drinking Diet Cokes first thing when I wake up in the morning, because that's where my life's at this point. And no one can tell me not to, because I'm a grown-up and I get to make the rules. We've been in this series for the past several weeks. In fact, we've been in quarantine for almost 8 weeks now. And on week 2, we started this series called Pray Like This, where we talked about the first part of the Lord's Prayer. And then on Easter, we started another series called Dear God, which we're in right now, talking about the last half of the Lord's Prayer. And this is such a commonly repeated prayer in our tradition that a lot of times it can lose its meaning, right? We hear the words so often that we can just say them, recite them, like song lyrics you've never really fully considered the meaning of. It's just kind of something we say, but maybe not something that we link our sincerity to. And so during this series, we just decided to break it down phrase by phrase, sentence by sentence, stanza by stanza. And this week is our last week in the series. And so we've dead-ended at the very end of this prayer. And I want to encourage you, if you didn't get a chance to see any of the weeks, to go back and rewatch them on our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, our Vimeo page, whatever platform you prefer, or all three. Okay, we're not going to restrict you. But this week, before we dive in, I just got to ask you, like, are you sick of the situation that we're in? I mean, are you to the place where you are just done with all the rules and regulations? Like every time you hear the president or the governor or someone, whoever it is that's making the rules for our county, they lay down another law about the way we're all supposed to be conducting our lives right now. And you've just been so restricted for so long that every time you hear a new rule, you're just like, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. No, I'm not. I can't. And you just bubble over with frustration because you just feel stuck. I know I'm there, and my family's been there. I can see it in my kids, like even just the normal stuff that we expect from them in this season just feels like too much. We tell them the way that the next day is going to go or what we expect from them in the moment, and they just flip out. And I can see that it's just been too long. In fact, one of my kids the other day, we were telling them, like, you know, this is kind of going to be the way the next day goes, and this is kind of be how it is. And can I go do this? No, you can't do that. Can I make this happen? No, you can't do that. And they're just watching their world get smaller and smaller and smaller. And finally, this kid just boils over with frustration and just yells like, well, fine. If it's going to be like that, then I'm just going to do this. And he had this thing that he was going to do that was just going to like make all of our lives miserable, which of course was really only going to make his life miserable. But I wonder if you're being pushed to the same place, right? Where when you get restrictions put on your life, when you feel like you're in a holding pattern, when you feel stuck, when there's all these things that you want to do but feel like you can't do. I wonder if inside you get to this place where you're just like, well, fine. If it's going to be like that, then I'm just going to do this. And we lean into something that even as we're saying it, we know we don't want to do, but we're tempted to do it anyway. And this is how people work. Oftentimes, when we are forced to face things we don't want to face, we often find ourselves doing things we don't want to do, that we're not proud of, that really aren't us. Ever find yourself backed into a corner and you end up saying or doing something that you never believed you would do because it's contrary to the kind of person you want to be? And even in the moment, you think to yourself, like, normally, like, I would never do anything like this, but this is not normal. And you're right. Like, your normal ended 8 weeks ago, along with mine and pretty much everybody else's. Like, this is uncharted territory. And now you're like, I have never had this much downtime on my hands. I've never been away from people for this long. Like I've never been cooped up with my family for this stretch of time. Like I've never seen our savings account this low before in my entire life. And this uncharted territory messes with us. Why? Because circumstances change categories, right? Like new places bring about new possibilities. And you used to know what was right and wrong, but maybe you're not so sure anymore. You used to know like this was not okay, but that was before. So now that things are different, like what is okay? You had a plan before, but all your old solutions aren't available to you in this new world. And you have all the same needs, but now you're not exactly sure how to go about getting them met. Like you have all the same feelings, but now you're not really sure how to sort through them or what to do about them. And they're heightened and they're compounded. In other words, it's getting worse. And what we do is when our lives feel out of control, we tend to cope in ways that often create more chaos. And we give in because we're not quite sure how else to survive given the situation. I mean, like, anybody else been tempted to do things that are not quite you just to try and get through? You find yourself thinking things like, I need to make a living and pay my bills. And so, yeah, I mean, like I fudged the numbers a little bit on my work from home punch card. No one's going to know. I mean, like I need to get my kids to like fall in line and do their work and stay calm for goodness sake. And I yell and lose my temper and I've threatened them a few times. I need some sort of human connection and I can't stand my wife right now. So yeah, I typed some things into the search bar on my phone or computer that maybe I shouldn't have. Or like, I don't even have a husband or a wife. And so, yeah, I reached out to an ex that I know is not good for me. I need to feel something besides sad. So yeah, I mean, I've bought some things online that I didn't need just to feel that happy feeling of having like another package arrive at the doorstep. Like I need to figure out a way to quell the anxiety in my gut. And so, yeah, I just eat and eat and eat to fill the void with something. Like I need to figure out a way to vent my anger and I'm not really sure what to do. So I just like nitpick the people around me until it pushes them over the edge. Maybe you see yourself in a few of these. Like, why is this happening to us? Because we are in new territory, right? We are untethered, overwhelmed, upset, fearful, and frustrated. We feel helpless and we don't know what to do. And this nervous energy is just building and building. And if you don't find a healthy way to process it, you're going to end up doing something you're not proud of, something that compromises your character, something that makes you less of who you really are. And we kind of sort of know that. And so why do we do it? Because before it makes us feel worse, it kind of makes us feel better. I mean, at least a little bit, at least for a little while. We get this little spike of enjoyment, that little dump of dopamine, and then we're torn, right? Because part of us thinks like, that was wrong. I mean, I'm not going to do that again. And then another part of us thinks that was awesome. I am definitely going to do that again. I mean, how do I keep this shortcut a secret? There is a word for this: temptation. Temptation is the impulse to meet a legitimate need in an illegitimate way. Another way to say it is temptation is going after the right thing at the wrong time, in the wrong way, or for the wrong reasons. Now, I do want to say that temptation in and of itself is not wrong. It's not a sin. Like even Jesus was tempted. There's this story in Matthew chapter 4. Jesus goes out into the desert to fast and pray, and he's out there for 40 days and 40 nights without food. And at the tail end of his time, he's presented with 3 opportunities to meet legitimate needs in illegitimate ways. He's tempted, and yet he resists because he's Jesus, you guys. But the time and place of this temptation makes sense to me. Don't they to you? I mean, he's 40 days into fatigue. He's hungry, angry, lonely, tired, and he's been that way for a long stretch of time. In other words, when he's at his weakest, the worst, most self-destructive ideas suddenly appear out of nowhere. I mean, isn't this how your life works? I think it's because tension plus time produces temptation. In other words, the longer I'm forced to suffer through something, the more I want to do something I shouldn't to shake it. Like, it's not just the tension, it's how long I'm experiencing this tension that produces this temptation that I feel compelled to give into because I'm weakened. Even though I know this is a bad idea, I still kind of want to do it. And in this last little bit of the Lord's Prayer, Jesus teaches us to pray towards these moments in our lives. He says this at the tail end of the prayer in Matthew chapter 6, verse 12. Do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. There are 2 ideas in this piece of the prayer. And the first part is really saying, God, don't even allow me to be inside of circumstances that cause me to want to compromise my character. And the second part is, but if I do find myself in those circumstances, and most of us have, right? God, help me to have the power to not do something I'm going to regret, to not do something that makes me less of who you've designed me to be, that causes me to give in and do something that makes me less than my best self. And you and I, we need this prayer in our lives because the things we're most tempted to do are not really bad things, right? They're good things that we're tempted to go about in the wrong way, because that's really what temptation does. Temptation is this voice that tells us the methods don't matter. The end justifies the means. It's okay to go about a good thing in a bad way. I mean, as long as you get the good thing in the end, like, what does it really matter? But it does matter. And I think deep down, we already know that. And so why do we still give in and do it? I think it's in large part because doing the wrong something to a control freak feels better than doing nothing. And Jesus is inviting us to pray to be delivered from that destructive impulse on every imaginable level. Because like Jesus in Matthew chapter 4, we're tempted to bend the rules, to take matters into our own hands when God is asking us to wait for his timing and to do things his way. And like Jesus, you're not immune to temptation, but also like Jesus, you don't have to give in to it. Paul in the New Testament talks a lot about this idea. There's this verse, it's one of my favorites, in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 12 and 13. And I just want to read this to you. He says, if you think you're standing strong, be careful not to fall. The temptations in your life are no different from what others experience. In other words, he's saying, like, listen, first off, you're not invincible. And second of all, you are not special, okay? Like, I know that you've built up a rhythm and you've built up a resistance to certain things, but you are not like indestructible. And also, I know there are times when you just think like, no one has ever felt this way. No one has ever experienced this. No one has ever had to go through this. No one has ever felt the weight of something like this before. And yet what he's saying in this passage is lots of people have experienced what you're experiencing. Lots of people are currently experiencing what you're experiencing. Now, this first part of the verse is super discouraging. Why would I read that to you? Because there's a second part that I want you to hear. The last half of verse 13 says this, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you're tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure. Here's what I like about this verse, because there are things I like and don't like when I read certain passages of scripture. Here's what I like. There's always a way out. I know that you're looking at certain things in your life and you're tempted to take matters into your own hands. You're tempted to compromise your character. And I love this passage that it just says, like, there is always another way. You may not notice it right now. You may not see it right now, but there is a way out. Here's what I don't like about this passage, though. The way out isn't usually effortless, painless, or convenient. In other words, it's going to require me to grow. And that does not sound like a whole lot of fun. I know you don't want to hear this because I don't want to hear it. Sometimes God grows us by removing our way so that we're forced to rely on his way. I can pretty much hear you groaning through the camera like, I don't like that. And I don't either. But it's the way in which growth works. It's the way in which we find our way to maturity. If I were to rephrase this piece of the Lord's Prayer in my own words, and I definitely am, I would say it this way. God, please change my circumstances. But if not, change me so I can weather them well and become more like you in the process. And that is a tough prayer to pray, but it's honest, and it requires us to open our hands up and just say, like, God, this is what I want, but if it's not gonna go that direction, God, help me to deal with that disappointment in the best possible way, in the healthiest possible way, in the holiest possible way. God, don't enable me to compromise my character, to try and grab hold of something good, because I won't like who I become in the process. And that's what this piece of the prayer ultimately means. And here's what I'm probably guessing about you. You're not having a whole lot of trouble praying the first half of this prayer, right? God, change these circumstances. God, please change these circumstances. God, change the circumstances. God, give me what I want. God, make things the way I want them to be, right? But the part we have a hard time with is the last part. But if not, change me so I can weather it well and become like you in the process. I wonder what would happen if you began to earnestly pray the last piece of this prayer. God, if you're not going to change immediately the circumstances, God, change me. God, make me better. God, give me your peace and your patience and your joy and your kindness and your self-control. God, give me everything I need to be who I need to be in a circumstance I never wanted to be in. And what we know about God is that when we pray this prayer earnestly, that God will always do one or the other, that God is good, that God will always do what is ultimately best for you. And if God is not going to change the circumstances, if you are open to him and surrendered to him, he will change you in the way that you need to be changed. And either way, you grow, which is the ultimate goal. And I know this season of your life, we are all in the midst of circumstances we wish would immediately change. And what I want to pray is that God would open your heart to be able to surrender to him all of the things that maybe he's not going to change immediately, that you would learn the lessons that are found in this part of the timeline of your life. Would you just bow your head wherever you find yourself today? Unless you're driving, then please don't. But if you're watching somewhere, would you just bow your head and close your eyes just to help you focus, even if you're in a living room surrounded with other people. And I just want to pray this simple prayer into your life today. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for the life that you've given us. And God, thank you for in your word showing us the best way to live our lives. And God, these moments are difficult for us because we had an idea of the way we thought our life was going to work, the way we thought this season was going to be structured. A lot of us made a whole lot of plans going in, and now those plans have kind of crumbled, and we find ourselves praying like, God, just make things better. God, like change things. God, make things the way I want them to be. And God, I really do believe that you hear our cries. And God, we have no idea what you have in store for us. But God, I will say this for each of us. God, if you are not going to change the circumstances, God, would you change us? Would you transform our hearts? Would you open us up? God, would you make us more like you? God, would you give us the fruit of your spirit? Would you enable us to interact and to respond to people the way you respond? God, I pray that you would give us your wisdom, that you would give us your grace, and God, that you would empower us to grow. Even if it's painful, even if it's frustrating, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's not easy, and it will not be. God, may you give us the courage to stay the course. God, to cling to you, and God, to hang on to our character, our integrity that is based in you, in your word, in your way, in your will. And God, that you would lead us down the path to become more of who we are in you. We ask this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Well, there's one last thing I want to invite you to do with us this morning, and it's a big deal. I want to invite you to give with us today. And if you are a regular part of our church, I want to invite you to tithe in the way that you normally do. But if you're not, do not log off yet, because I want to tell you something that is exciting, that even if you're just tuning in for the first time today and you wouldn't consider this your church, maybe you wouldn't even consider yourself a Christian, there's something that I want to invite you to be a part of, because it's a big deal and it's going to make a big difference. But first off, I just want to say to those who are a part of this church, whether it's a consistent habit for you or whether it's something that God is maybe calling you to do or pulling you or stretching you or challenging you to do, I want to encourage those of you that consider South Hills to be your church home to tithe today, to give the first and best of whatever God has given you back to him through the local church, to empower our church to meet the spiritual and practical needs of our community. And you can give several ways. You can give through our app, the Church Center app. You can give through our website, southhills.org/give. You can give by texting. You can text your campus and your amount to the number on the screen. And you could also mail a check. And so if you'd rather mail a check, you can do that to our Corona address. And all of those of you that have continued to give during this time, you're the only reason we're able to still function, to still operate, to still produce content, to still meet the practical needs of our congregation and the community beyond week after week after week. And if you are not already, I hope that you subscribe and follow us on Facebook, that you follow us on Instagram, that you follow us on Twitter, so that you can get all of the consistent updates of the way in which your dollars are making our community better, are changing and transforming the lives of other people. But even beyond that, I want to challenge every single person watching today, every single family, every single individual, to give to Beyond Our Walls today. Beyond Our Walls is this above and beyond fund that we have designated in our church to meet specialized needs, or to be able to accomplish special projects above and beyond kind of the normal ministry stuff that we're doing. And we have the opportunity to be a part of something that is way bigger than us. That's way bigger than our campus. We have 10 campuses in total at South Hills, and one of our campuses is in San Diego. And they have put together an incredible serving opportunity to feed those who are going without during this season. And if all of us band together for about $19, we can feed an entire family for 2 to 4 days. And I would love for us to be able to feed all 500 families that this campus has set a goal to feed. And it's gonna take all of us. Now, if you're at that place where you're like, I don't know what I think about God, and I don't really feel good about giving to a church, I just want to tell you, if you're giving to Beyond Our Walls today, you are not giving to a church. You're giving through a church to people in the San Diego area so that they can eat. All of the money that comes in this weekend will go directly to this project. And man, if you guys give way above what we need, we're going to get another truck, and we're going to feed even more people, because this is the heart of who we are as a church. I know you're curious about how this thing is going to work and maybe what some of the details are. And so as you are getting ready to give, as you're pulling up the Church Center app, as you're maybe texting to give or logging onto our website, I want you to hear from our founding and lead pastor as he tells you a little bit about this incredible opportunity.
Hey, South Hills, we know that COVID-19 has hit so many people. People lost their lives. People have lost family and friends. I know a pastor that I've known for years lost his life to COVID-19. We know people have lost their job, or they've been hit financially, and it's becoming so real to so many people. And we want to do something about it. So we found some areas in San Diego that are in desperate need. People are hurting financially. And we've managed to be able to put together the equivalent of 40,000 meals. And what we're doing is we're taking them and we're putting them into these care packages that will give families food and drinks and maybe some diaper for their kids. And we're putting them in a care package that will help them for a few days. Now, I know that a few days isn't going to change their life forever, but maybe it'll give them the relief and the help that they need. But we need everybody's help in this, and I mean everybody's help. It's for $19 per family. You can help them for a few days, give them all the food they need and help their kids for 2 to 3 days for just $19. And maybe you can give $19 and take care of one family, or maybe you give $38, you can take care of 2 families, or even more. But we need everybody's help. All you need to do is go to southhills.org. You're going to click the button that says Give, and then you're going to give to BOW, which stands for Beyond Our Walls. Or you can also do it on our Church Center app. I'm asking for everybody's help. Let's make a difference in these people's lives. Let's bring hope and let's bring light to people that are desperately in need.
We are excited about this opportunity to bless so many. It's crazy that for just under $20, we can take care of families in our community in such a huge and impactful way. And you can be a part of that by going to the Church Center app, clicking Give, and then choosing the Corona BOW Fund. Thank you so much for partnering with us and God as we change lives. If you're watching live, we hope to see you on Zoom for our virtual Discover class at 1 p.m. today. You can still RSVP by going to the Church Center app, clicking on the Events tab, and then choosing Discover Class. Thank you for tuning into church today. To stay updated on all the things South Hills Corona throughout the week, follow us on Facebook and YouTube, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any updates. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next Sunday.